Okay, so I'll break out the step by step. Like it is no secret in how to get a job at a marketing agency, okay? It's actually very simple. Now it's simple, but it's not easy. It takes time.
All right, guys, what is going on? Podcast or YouTube, wherever you're watching this or listening to it. Guys, I have a special guest on today's episode. And listen, if you listen or watch my content, then you recently, or you probably know, I recently made a move from HR to marketing. And the one reason why I was able to successfully make this pivot is because, well, the person in front of me, yeah, that guy right there, he kind of, unlocked the key and opened the gate for me. And ever since then, because of this amazing individual, I've been able to successfully start my marketing journey. We're going to get into a lot of good stuff about, job hunting, careers, what hiring managers think, and personal branding, and a lot of good stuff. You're going to love this episode. But with that being said, Mahfuz, my man, how's it going?
Good. Listen, I cannot take any credit for why you made that transition successfully. You, my friend, did all the right moves. You played me like a fiddle. Like you played me like a blank, whatever that instrument is, you played it.
Okay.
You made it happen. So, we can dive into that later, my friend, but you're so great at what you do. And it is an easy yes for me when you asked me to be on this podcast today. Thank you for having me.
No, for sure. I'm really excited to this. I know I come to you asking for a lot of advice. You've been a mentor of mine as well. And I always love talking with you. So I'm really excited for this. But with that being said, let's just kind of jump right into it. But maybe for everyone who's kind of watching or listening right now, can you maybe tell them a little bit about your career journey that led you into marketing and with Candy Box Marketing, and maybe what you do at Candy Box Marketing, things of that nature?
Fantastic. Yeah. So I've been part of Candy Box Marketing for above 9 years now. I'm currently the brand manager at the agency. And before I ever joined marketing or ever even knew I wanted to be in the world of marketing, I was just someone trying to make it out of school. Like I was just graduating with my friends. I heard through the grapevine that some of my friends are going to business. I said, hey, maybe I should apply to business too, because it's easier to get into business with lower grades in high school. So I was not like an A+ student. I was just trying to figure out my way. But it wasn't when I was in university that I took the marketing course. And, big shout out to my teacher. He walked in front of the room and he said to hundreds of students in that lecture hall that we're going to do an activity where we're going to come up with your own shoe brand. You can call it whatever you want. You need to tell me how you're pricing it, how you're branding it, how you're marketing it, and how you're going to make it successful. And that project was so fun for me. Like, at that moment, designing this random shoe that doesn't exist, that will never become a reality, was to me the biggest game changer, because I was like, wait, people do this for a living? Like, you're telling me people get paid out there to do this, what I consider a game? Like, it's so fun. Why isn't everybody doing it? And very quickly, after that realization, I've changed course and I said, I want to get into the world of marketing. What's crazy is that I've only been working in the world of food service industry all my life. Like I've only worked at Tim Hortons, and very briefly I worked at Montana's as a waiter, but that was it. I had no marketing experience. So one of the things that I had to spend a lot of time figuring out is how to break into that industry. And we're very privileged, man. We're very lucky to be living in an era now that is so easy to make the transition very similar to the one that you did, because we can use things like the internet and social media to create experience that we're lacking in order to get the jobs that we want to get out there.
And so you were working in like the food retail kind of space. You went to school, you did a project, you figured out you loved marketing and everything. And I want to ask you about like that transition from working in food to the actual marketing gig and that. But before that, can you maybe tell me about, when you were doing this project with this professor, what exactly about the project made you go, wow, like this is addicting? Like what tangible aspect of it did you like the most?
It's like a superpower, man. If you think about the fact that you could wake up any day, you could come up with an idea, and then you don't have to go back to sleep. You can actually bring that idea to life. I love that. And to me, that's what it felt like I was doing. So when we were coming up with a strategy for the shoe, like what is this shoe supposed to represent? When you think of Nike and the sponsors that they bring on, like Michael Jordan, and why they bring on those sponsors, that's all a strategy to create the experience of being the greatest human being in the world every time you wear one of their Air Jordans. You know, every time you wear the shoe, you're empowered because you're like, Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player in the world, and I'm wearing his shoes, so I'm the greatest. And it's associating a feeling, like almost psychological, man. Like you're creating a psychological impact in a human being through communication and the messages that you're creating. And it just so happens to be a shoe, but to me it was bigger than that. It was being able to communicate to people using digital, using marketing to actually spark interest and emotions in other human beings. That part of the activity was so fun for me, and I became so fascinated by it. I really think, man, that if I didn't go into marketing, I would have been either like a psychologist or a lawyer. Like, I just feel like those touch in the same realm of communicating and sparking emotions in another human being. And I really feel like marketing is the other one that does that. And I'm glad I'm able to play somewhere in that space of really like connecting with human beings in a different way.
Wow, that's powerful. So, when it comes to the term marketing, I feel like there's just so many umbrellas underneath marketing, and it feels like the niche of marketing that you kind of have a passion for is specifically like the branding side of it. Would you agree in that sense?
I wouldn't even say branding. Like, even though brand manager is my title, I've only been a brand manager for the last year. Before that, I was all about project management, and even that didn't feel like my calling. I think my calling really is helping people bring their ideas to fruition. Like, if you told me today, like, I want to build a business and I don't know where to start, and you were like, here's my budget, that budget would have been spent on me building your business with like, what is going to be the name of it? What is going to be the design of it? What is it going to look like? So some people can put that in branding, but to me, it's about bringing it to life. So now that we have the messaging, and I think that's where the answer of marketing that I love, which is the communication aspect. How do you communicate through different tools? So there's tools like, obviously, we know like blogging. We know there's like email marketing. We know there's social media content. But to me, everything together, speaking one language as a brand, like who is Alif as a brand, that every time you put something out there, they know it's written by Alif and it's Alif's messaging. That's what I like, is figuring out that voice of the company and bringing it out to communication. And it just so happens branding is one of the departments that allows me to do that.
Wow, that's so powerful. I was kind of reflecting on this. I would consider myself a marketer, but today at work, my manager was working on our new logo and design and stuff, and she was asking me for my opinions, and I'm just like, good enough. But then I kept thinking about you and then, working in Candy Box Marketing, which we'll get into, and the brand exercise we went through, I'm like, there's actually so much science behind this that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I started to realize the aspect of marketing that I like the most is the conversion, selling, and then persuasive stuff of it, the copy and whatnot, right? Or the video scripts or something of that nature. So I'm starting to realize, like, under the term marketing, there's people with different strengths and different preferences, right? Would you agree with me in that sense? Or?
100%. And you're right, man. It is so much more scientific than people think. Like, marketing comes with the whole aspect of like, how do people know which commercial to put on or which ad to put on the billboard, and how to make award-winning commercials and stuff like that. But the reality is, that's not their first attempt. That's like their 23rd attempt. It just so happens that one finally went big and we heard about it. Because what happens in marketing is you're not supposed to know the answer. You're supposed to know how to figure out the answer. You're supposed to put out something out there and now know which data to analyze to now figure out what to do next. So, we make a website. If the website's not selling, what do we look at? Oh, maybe we should look at the fact that, is the form working, functionality? Are people dropping off too quickly, stats? Like, are people not using desktop, they're using mobile, and your mobile version isn't working? So you start thinking about it more through statistics to solve problems that happen, the micro problems that happen as a result of the major problem that you're trying to solve. So that's one aspect. But you're right, man. Like, there's so many different sides. Like, marketing has the brand side, it has the content side, it has the social media side, it has the online advertising side. Like, a lot of people does Facebook and Google ads. There's even the video media, multimedia side. Now there's even podcasting. Like, marketing has grown so beyond the realm of just the word marketing that every single time someone comes to me and says, like, I want to work in marketing, my first question is, what is it in marketing that you want to do? Like, what is it? And they actually don't know the answer. And it made me realize that I think most people don't realize what you just said, that it's an umbrella of different departments. They think marketing is one job, and that's not ever the case anymore.
So building on what you literally just mentioned, so let's say, I don't know, Nathaniel graduated from school, wants to get into marketing, studied a general marketing degree in school, and he wants to know exactly what aspect of marketing he wants to get into because he saw something on Indeed and there's different types of marketing people, specialists, whatever. What advice do you have for Nathaniel in that sense on figuring out what stream of marketing you want to get into?
First of all, I'll tell Nathaniel that he's got a dope name, because that's okay.
Okay.
And I would start there.
You like that name?
I would follow it up. But yeah, everyone always says, like, oh, if Steve or Jane was applying for a job. Nathaniel is a cool.
Yeah. Steve. Yeah, it's always a Steve.
Yeah, true Steve. He doesn't have a chance against Nathaniel. So I would tell Nathaniel to taste as much of marketing as you can on your own time. Because most people think you have to build an experience with a job. And that's not true anymore. It used to be true, but it's not true anymore. You can start your own social media account. You can create your own website. You can write your own blogs. You can brand your own logo. You can create your own communication through email campaign. You can record your own podcast. You can start your own YouTube video show. You can do all these things on your own time, only to find out which one you love doing the most, right? I actually, kudos to you. I actually hate vlogging, and you crush it at vlogging, and that's okay. We love two different things, but you're so good at it and I'm not. So I will not do vlogging, but there's other things that I'm really good at that I love doing. Like, I really enjoy podcasting. I really enjoy branding. I love speaking on stage. Like, to me, those things are fun. So it's important for people to do, like Nathaniel specifically, to do all of the above, and then sit back and ask himself, have a retrospective meeting and ask himself, which one did I enjoy doing the most, and follow that passion. Because it usually, what you'll find is that it's screaming at you that this is the funnest thing. And let me also say this, Alif, no job, no department is going to always be fun. You got to do a lot of little annoying, tedious things to do the things that you want to do. For public speaking, it's the same thing. You got to spend a lot of hours on the phone trying to get gigs, like a lot of contracts, a lot of negotiation before you finally get to do the fun thing, which is going on stage. But even after that, you gotta go back and follow up with all the people that message you, put up your photos as content, find video clips. Like, there is a lot of non-fun stuff to do. What you gotta find is it worth it? I think of relationships. You love the other human being, the relationship is worth it. There's a very good chance you're doing a lot of things day to day that's not fun, but you're doing it because it betters the relationship. This is the same thing. You want to do what you love, you got to be okay with doing the little tedious things that are not fun.
Interesting. And so let's say Nathaniel in this case decided to try things out. He wants to go to YouTube, he starts social media marketing, heck, he even starts an email list and everything. What should he create content around in that sense? Do you have any tips on him for that?
This comes back to who Nathaniel is as an individual, right? Like, if Nathaniel needs to spend some time thinking about what he's passionate about, because no matter which one of those options that we just listed that he chooses to do, he's going to start at zero followers, 0 subscribers, 0 views on your website. He needs to build traction, and that's going to take time and a lot of tedious work, and that's not fun. And it's easier to do the things that are not fun if the topic that you're writing it about is your passion. So let's say he's into the Toronto Raptors, which if he is, Nathaniel and I are going to be boys. We're going to hang out and we're going to go to some games. But if he is, like I am, you could start a podcast show around the Toronto Raptors playoff run right now and what's going on in the bubble. You could write a blog article giving play-by-play about situations of what Toronto Raptors needs to do to beat the Boston Celtics. Like, you could literally build a brand around being a fan page of the Raptors or a reporter of the Raptors. By the way, a lot of those famous people, like Stephen A. Smith, that interviews Toronto Raptors and the NBA players today and has his own news show, they started by being a fan of their own passion. They just wrote and commentated about the game. And it just so happened that he had such a big personality that he became famous, and now he's doing it on a global scale. But he was just like us, making content through channels like this. So for Nathaniel, whatever that passion is, build it around what you love. And it doesn't need to be the Raptors. It could be a video game. It could be Pokemon cards, right? It could be Star Trek. It could be knitting, like whatever niche you want to go down. I promise you that there's a community for it, but build a platform around that community, because not only are you going to figure out what you love, it may just become big enough where you don't actually even need to go out to do job hunting. You may find a way to make enough money doing your passion that you can just focus on that full time instead, which is really living the dream, because now you're just focusing on what you love all the time.
Exactly. Speaking on that point, actually, what's interesting is as I started like posting content and doing some side hustles and everything, I actually realized, and this is right after your Instagram live with Kaifer, our friend, when you talked about not everyone has to be an entrepreneur, I had a big realization that I thought I was going to be an entrepreneur or something, but then I realized I actually don't like delivering. For example, I was doing a coaching program, a virtual coaching program, and I love the marketing and sales, but when it came time to deliver the first coaching session, I was like, oh, like I really don't feel like doing it. Oh, I don't want, like, I just want to market and sell and do emails. And I realized, oh God, I'm not meant to be like a CEO or an entrepreneur. I just want to be a CMO or like a marketing person who helps a company grow and everything. And I think to your point, as we experiment, we start figuring out things about ourselves, right?
You don't leave, like, even just by realizing that, you're going to be so much happier with your life than you would have been if you tried to force being someone that you're not. And the reality is, like, entrepreneurship and being a CEO of your business has become such a pedestal conversation. Like, everyone's putting it up like it's the only way to be successful. Like, you will not be happier. Like, there's only two options, either entrepreneurship or failure. And I'm so upset that that's become the norm of the conversation. So I've become the one that came in and disrupted. I've been the one that's like, guys, like, I'm speaking on stage, I'm publishing books, I have a podcast show, I have a big Instagram following, but I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a brand manager of a marketing agency, and also I'm getting paid well, right? So a lot of people think, oh, I'm never going to make a good living if I don't end up getting a CEO position, because they're the only ones that make money. That's not true at all. There's a lot of positions directly under the CEO that does very well. And you know what else they get on top of good money? They get a lot of time. They get a lot more time to do the things that they want to prioritize in their life. Like, you talk to CEOs and they're talking about how their biggest issue is time management. They're trying to figure out how to get all this done, but still have time for the family. I shut down my laptop every day at 5 p.m. Right? Today was the only exception because you're my boy, Alif, and I decided to be recording with you. But the important thing is, I don't think about Candy Box after 5 p.m. I shut that part of my brain off and I can do whatever I want. And then 9 a.m. tomorrow, I think about Candy Box again. So you get such a nice balance in your life. And more importantly, you get to focus on only the things that you love. I don't wake up thinking like, oh, I got to take care of accounting today, or I got to think of the next hiring strategy or the growth strategy, which I do think about growth strategy because I care about Candy Box, but it's not my job. I don't think about like the paying the finances and payroll and all these other things that comes in with being a CEO. I get to come in every day and talk marketing. And I got to tell you, today's Monday, and I'm so excited to get the day. Like, I'm so excited to crush today. And I had such a good day today. And I feel like that every Monday because I know that I'm literally going into work every day doing marketing. And I hope other people that aren't actually into being a CEO realize that they could get up every morning and be happy doing what they love simply by finding out their passion and not pursuing the dream and the facade of being a CEO.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, like once I came to that epiphany, like, oh, I'm just going to do marketing, it felt like 10 pounds came off my shoulders and I felt more confident kind of putting myself out there as a marketer. Yeah, like it's just, heck yeah, marketing. I think about this in my sleep. Like that's all I ever do, right? Like, and then the passion kind of fueled even more, which was interesting. And because I wasn't exploring, I just knew.
Yeah,
I committed to it.
And I'll tell you another one, Alif. I actually had this realization the other day that I'm not responsible to post on Instagram every day. That like, I'm not a content producer. I'm a marketer. So like, I can actually never use Instagram and I'm still actively working because my job is to create stuff for my clients, not post on Instagram. So I don't actually feel that pressure that a lot of people feel of like, oh my God, I haven't posted in weeks. I got to put something out there. I don't feel that anymore because I realized that's not my job. Like, Nowhere in the world have I come out there and said what I do for a living is post on Instagram. Instagram is just somewhere where once in a while I'll come out to put out reflections of what's going on through my mind. But every single day I got my head down and I work on stuff. And there are people out there that have been doing this for the last 10 years that are extremely successful that haven't even made a post on Instagram. And it made me realize that a lot of people need to take a step back from thinking that posting on social media and activity is what makes them successful. It's not activity, it's productivity. Are you being productive with what you're doing? And I think that's going to make the big difference in someone who's really happy with what they're doing, or are they pretending with the post that they're making out there?
Yeah, I remember you said something along the lines of these successful people or these CEOs, they don't even have social media yet. They're like super successful. I think it was a conversation you had with our friend Ryan, I believe, or something. You mentioned that, right? And I was like, oh, wait, it's true. And I feel like there's a lot of these like online personal branding gurus out there. Like, you got to build a personal brand and grow your social media following Instagram, and Millionaire Mentor says here's 5 Instagram hacks and everything. And it's like, I realized I was obsessed with social media because I thought it was this way it's supposed to be. Then like after what you said, I was like, wait, that's actually true. Like you don't need to have Instagram to be successful. I mean,
like, don't get me wrong, having a big following on social media helps. It helps with your passion. But it's not the necessity. It's not the only way. You can still be very fine without being very successful on social media. I have, I think, about 7,000 followers. I would have been just as good if I had 1,000. Truly. The other 6,000 was audience that built over time, but those 1,000 is really that mattered. And out of that 1,000, like a little couple people really actually made an impact in my life. Like a small group, like a small dozen. So take that in, like take in how minuscule of a number really matters when it comes to your following. Like, you could honestly have 30 people on your Instagram following, and they could be so impactful that you don't ever need to have anyone else in the world. And it's true, man, because the reality is contracts get signed behind closed doors, not on social media.
Wow, really that's deep right there.
Right? Like, if you really want to do well with business, you meet people in private, not through social media, because social media is not going to get you that transaction.
Do you plan these quotes out? You always drop quotes. Like, I don't know, you will just drop quotes. So like, do you actually plan these out, or is it just kind of go with the flow?
I always hope that there'll be some like Instagram highlight moment that I will be like, wow, I can't believe I said that. No, man, you know what? I'm just thinking out loud. Like, these things go through my mind all the time, and it's always fun to try to bring it out into words in the way that I'm thinking.
Yeah, I feel like you're the most quotable person that anyone can meet.
I appreciate it.
Man, we can talk forever on this topic, but sticking to the topic of careers for Nathaniel. So you're working in like food, and then maybe like retailer a bit and everything. You studied marketing in school, did a cool project, realized marketing is the way I want to go. So how did that point, I think you were in Tim Hortons, is that right? Yeah. Yes. How do you go from Tim Hortons? By the way, I worked there too. Shout out. But how do you go from Tim Hortons to I'm guessing Candy Box? Like, what was that transition like, and what happened in that period?
Okay, so I'll break out the step by step. Like, it is no secret in how to get a job at a marketing agency. Okay, it's actually very simple. Now, it's simple, but it's not easy. It takes time. And the reality is, I built my own experience in my own time. Right? It's very easy to go into a job interview and being like, here is the success I've created. Can I do it for you? Like, it's very easy. Who would say no to that? And that's literally what I did. I started my own website. You know, like I was talking about Nathaniel's passion for the Raptors, but back then I was passionate about personal development. I still am. It's literally my love of my life. Like, more than marketing, the only thing I love is personal development. And I was so passionate about it back then that I created a blogging website. And now, I'll be honest, man, it's a trash website. Like, I'm embarrassed that I had a website that bad looking now that I got better at design. But back then, like, it was all I had because I used templates, and I created a blog, and my blog was doing extremely well. Like, I was getting visitors, like thousands of visitors every day from over 100 countries. And I started a Twitter account, and my Twitter got 9,000 followers. No, it got 4,000 followers in 9 days, if I remember correctly. Wow. I can't remember the exact numbers, but something along that realm. So that started blowing up. And then it started blowing up so much that I had people from different areas of the world. Like there was one instance where a professor from the University of Iran asked me if he could read one of my blog articles to his classroom because it was so inspiring. And he actually sent me photographs of him on stage with my photo in the slide behind him reading to the classroom. And that was such a great memory that I was laying in bed writing this article, and now it's in a university on the other side of the world being read to 500 students. Like, how ridiculous is that? So I'm building all these stats. And while these success stories are happening, I'm building myself a portfolio. I'm collecting the data, the emails that I get, the wow, you were amazing messages, the subscribers, the blogs, all that stuff, I'm collecting it. Then one day I decided that I want to go work for a marketing agency, and it was because I was at school and we needed to find a co-op job. I decided to utilize LinkedIn, and you're the best person in the world that I know that can talk about LinkedIn tips. I truly believe that. Anyone that asks for LinkedIn tips, I always say, go talk to Alif. And it was so easy for me to apply with confidence, knowing that I had value to add to that agency, knowing that I can actually show them that I know how to build a website that converts. And I put it out there, and it just so happened that Daryl was the first person, the CEO of Candybox, was the first person that I messaged. And he got back to me right away. It was impressive that he got back to me right away because I didn't quite pitch him. I wrote him a message, and he looked at my LinkedIn profile, and he saw enough in what I showed in my LinkedIn, which was my success stories. And that was enough for him to invite me to meet with him at a Starbucks coffee shop. And when I sat down with them, I just opened my laptop and I showed my stats. I showed that I'm the real deal. I'm not BSing. These aren't fake stats. I explained to him exactly how I did it. I shared my strategy. I said, would you like me to do this for you? And Daryl asked me at the very end of that interview, when can you start?
Oh, okay.
And that's it. Like building your experience first and then showcasing it without expecting a job to get you that experience. It's very easy to build experience in the world of marketing.
And when you were reaching out to Daryl, Daryl's the CEO of Candybox, by the way, company Mahfuz is that. But when you were reaching out to Daryl on LinkedIn, what was the message you sent them that made him say, yes, I will come out of my way to a Starbucks to meet you, a complete stranger?
Yeah.
Like, what was the message?
You know, I kind of laugh about it because it was very cryptic, but he read between the lines. It's kind of like if I was like, if I saw you post an Instagram photo and I was the only friend you didn't invite, and the next day you see me and I'm kind of like, looks like you had a great time, Alif. That's nice. But you know that I'm just pissed and I'm jealous. Like I kind of did that kind of middle ground message to Daryl because I was like, hey, I'm looking to work in the industry of marketing. Do you have any recommendations? You know,
so broad.
Asking a guy that works in marketing, do you have any recommendations? So he read between the lines, and Daryl was, you know, very wise. He understood exactly what I was asking, and he asked me to meet up with him right away. Like, and I still thought going into that meeting that he was going to give me recommendations. I didn't think he was going to hire me. It wasn't until we sat down that I realized, oh my God, I'm actually in the middle of an interview. I better nail this. So it was very impressive how the worlds aligned the way it did, but it really came down to me just reaching out to people with confidence. But it's also important to note, Alif, one thing that I did before I started messaging people is I spent time on my profile. I spent time on my LinkedIn profile showing all the case studies and all the results that I've acquired and generated with my own side hustle. So when I'm applying and reaching out to people, I know these employers are looking at my profile too. I needed to make sure that it was crystal clear that I have a lot of success and value that I can offer them. So that's what I did. And I really think I wouldn't have got the interview with Daryl if I didn't polish up my profile first.
Interesting. If you right now know in what's in your brain, if you were to time travel back in time, when you sent that message to Daryl, how would you change it?
I mean, it's hard to say anything. Like, I wouldn't have got a job if I changed it. So I'd be a little bit nervous. But I think if I was going to do it all over again, I would message people after researching them first. I would have found the commonalities, because the truth is, Daryl had a lot in common with me. He went to the same college that I did. He had the same professors that I did. He competed in the same marketing competitions that I did. That's what I would have done if I was applying again. I would have reached out to Daryl, find those commonalities, and I would have messaged him with starting off those commonalities to show him that, hey, I am right now where you used to be. And that's what I would make him realize. I would be like, hey, it's great to see you went to Sheridan College. I'm there right now. It's great to see that you had David as your teacher. I have David right now. Ha ha ha. He's a great, funny teacher. And then I would have talked about the fact that it's great to see you at the OCMC. I won a gold medal there. Like, I would have used that as the icebreaker. And then I would have gone into like, I would love to work with someone who had my kind of background, that experienced the things that I have. And that's how I think I would have phrased it to give me a better opportunity. But the important thing is, I wouldn't ask him for a job on the phone. That's the biggest mistake a lot of people go in with, is that first message, they go in for the kill. Where I go in with the message and I just try to get them on the phone. Like, can I get some advice from you? Can you spare a few minutes to get on a call? Can we meet for coffee on me? Like, I will do what I can to get in front of that person and get to know them first, because, I have a lot of confidence that I deserve to work somewhere that I want to work just as much as they want to hire me. So I want to meet up with them because I want to see if Daryl was the kind of leader I want to work with. So it mattered to me to actually assess who he was just as much as he was assessing me.
And how can students develop that confidence? So what I've noticed with a lot of students when I speak to them, it's intimidating to see a job application. It's intimidating to see like some 40-year-old in a suit and I'm me, like this 22-year-old guy reaching out to them, and it just feels like sketchy. Like I feel like I'm two-faced, like I just want a job, but I'm reaching out to them asking for like a coffee chat or something. Like, and then at the same time, like I don't know what the workplace is kind of like, so I don't even have a perception of it. So I'm just kind of jumping in a black hole, and I'm anxious with the whole thing. So someone in that mindset, compared to like you mentioned, like I want to see if they're a good fit for me and I'm a good fit for them, and it seems like you have a certain sense of confidence. How would you recommend a student go from that to what you just mentioned?
It's truly all in the shape of their perspective on the situation, because a lot of people right now are perceiving this as a disadvantage. Like, I'm a student, it's a disadvantage because they're gonna see me as young, inexperienced. What do I know? Why should I listen to this kid? Not a chance. And it's intimidating because they see themselves as a lower level, that they're not good enough to be sitting in the same room as these CEOs. What I encourage, and I don't just say this to gas people up, I really mean this, because I spent so much time in a marketing agency, and what I have the opportunity to do is I meet so many CEOs, so many, right? Like hundreds of CEOs a year. So I can honestly tell you with full confidence that they need you. Being a student is not a disadvantage. It's actually a huge advantage, because what they need is fresh ideas. They need someone who understands today's marketing. The times are changing so fast that people that have built a successful business don't actually know how to keep it successful in today's era. So they're actually looking at students to bring these fresh ideas to the table. And when I started realizing that, I started becoming a lot louder in boardrooms. Like when I first started working for Candy Box as an intern, bro, I was quiet. Like I would sit through boardrooms, and even though I had an idea in my mind that I was like, man, this idea would kill it, I was too shy to say anything, because I was like, who am I to tell this multi-million-dollar successful business owner how to run his business? And then I would leave. And you know what happens after? He ended up implementing the same idea that I had anyways, which meant I was right, which meant I should have said something. And I never got any credit for it because I didn't. So now I decided that I'm going to be more outspoken about my ideas, because it actually does matter. People need to know it. Like educational system, there's a lot of conspiracy or a lot of controversy behind how people feel about it. But one thing I'll tell you is what you learn in school right now and what you're applying in your internships are the freshest ideas in the industry. And my recommendation is to go out there and go in with confidence, saying, I know things that you don't know. I want to help you. You actually do need me. And when you have that perspective, you're going to start seeing yourself as more valuable. And now you can be picky. When you can afford a Lamborghini, you can be a little bit pickier with the color, right? And if you can't afford a Honda, you're not going to care if you get the most rusty car in the world, right? So trust me, students, you are Lamborghinis. Like you are the Lamborghini of the marketing world. Be picky about which owner you want to end up with, because it really does matter, and you're that valuable.
Oh my God. Okay. I love that. So what about a newcomer coming to Canada? They have like $500 in the bank account. They need a job fast to make rent, or else who knows what's gonna happen. And you mentioned, you know, like be picky with who you want to get into. But what if they're just desperate for a job? It almost feels like. What advice do you have for them in that sense?
Then don't go into marketing. Not right away. If you need a job ASAP, get the quickest minimum wage job that you can. Truly, like I worked at Tim Hortons, you worked at Tim Hortons. Like I didn't want to pour coffee for a living. I just knew that that was my temporary solution before I could figure out what I really wanted. But it's easier to get a job at a Tim Hortons or a McDonald's than it is to get into a marketing agency. Statistically, that's the fact. And you don't need any experience to get into it. So the reality is, I actually recommend getting a job that you don't like if it pays the bills in the short term. But it's important to remind yourself that it's in the short term. I'll be honest with you, man, there's a lot of people that I personally know that are working a job for 5+ years when they signed up to do it short term, and they hate it every day of their life, and they're miserable, but they won't leave it because they're scared of going out there. What I actually am, and maybe I'm just wired different, bro, but when I'm in a job that I hate, I'm even more fired up to get my experience and my real job. You know, I'm more hungry, I'm more anxious, I'm more ambitious. But for some reason, a lot of people stay there long term. So promise yourself that this is the amount of time that I'm going to spend. If you don't like what you're doing, you should be applying 10, 20 times a freaking day. Every single day. The more you hate it, the more you should be applying to get out of it. But in the short term, there's nothing wrong with getting a job. Like, don't discredit yourself for working at Tim Hortons. It doesn't mean you gave up on your dreams. It just means you're finding a way to get by, while in the other time out of the 8 hours a day, you're spending time building your dream and getting into the career that you really want to get into.
So powerful, and I resonate with that deeply, because in that HR role, I was just like, it felt like my soul was sucking away every day, and I'm like you said, there is way more to me than reading a resume 8 hours a day. Like, oh my God. And just every time I go home, I'm like, screw this. I in attack mode on Indeed.
You are way too creative, Alif. You're way too creative to be working in the world of HR. I can't even picture you in an HR job. I'm trying right now, not seeing you in your room in front of a podcast, but in a desk, in a cubicle. That's the frame. And I can't picture it. Like, you're just too fun, energetic, and creative to be in that environment. No knock at HRs, by the way.
Yeah.
Some people love that stuff. It's just not you, and I can tell you that with full confidence.
Thanks, I really appreciate that. It means a lot. I want to ask you, so you're at this point right now, you know, you met up with Daryl, you had a coffee, surprisingly got an opportunity, and now you're like living an internship period for a bit, right? I want to ask you how long the internship period is, but before I get into that, what advice do you have for having a mindset when approaching an internship that will ensure you are successfully onboarded by the end of it? Does that make sense?
So I like starting with this, is asking yourself, do you want to work for a big name company, or are you okay with working for a smaller company, even if it means for a short term? Like, not that you're going to build your career all your life. Because the problem with big companies is, well, there's pros and cons. The pro is you're going to have a big name on your resume. It's going to look amazing. Your parents are going to brag to all their friends and family that you're working at Microsoft or Apple. But the problem is you are one small fish in a mega pond. And you are trying to make, a ripple when you can barely make a drop. And it's very hard to make an impact in that kind of business that will get you a long-term position. My advantage is I worked with someone where I was his only employee. So it was that small. It was so startup that how can he not notice that I'm doing well? When the CEO of the company is my only manager and I'm his only employee, how can he not notice that I'm killing it in what I'm doing? So he took note of all the things that I was doing. You know, I was producing results. I was leading workshops with confidence. He got to see me speak in front of a room, which, wow, an intern speaking in front of a room with confidence is very rare, right? Like, he saw all these things that I was doing. He saw that I was good-hearted, good-spirited. I actually did a podcast with him on my podcast show, and I asked him, I was like, humor me, Daryl. Like, why did you hire me? And he said that he just saw that I had the skill set and the fact that I was very easy to work with. I was a great, like, ambitious guy, and that was enough for him to hire me. So he has validated that those were the reasons why he hired me. So I think when you work for a smaller company, it's very easy to make a direct impact with a direct manager. So another perspective shift. We're doing a lot of this today, Alif. Like we're changing a lot of minds today. Entrepreneurship versus jobs.
Oh yeah.
Doing what you love and not following the money. Like we're talking about a lot of mindset. Here's another mindset shift. There is nothing wrong with joining a startup as an intern, right? You may leave, you may quit, you may stay, you may build. I've been with this same company, that's Candy Box Marketing right here, where it is, right there, for 9 years. And I came in as a 3-month unpaid intern. And I'm now a brand manager of a company that is 20 plus strong. So it really shows you how the investment, when you really invest in something that you love, you can work with it to build it into something magnificent. And I was so fortunate to be given that opportunity. So another mindset shift is please don't discount a company just because it's smaller than one of those big names out there. I promise you, there's so much more you can do with it. Because in Candy Box, I'm a big fish in a small pond, and I would rather take that over the other way around.
Wow, amazing. I totally agree with you. Like working in HR, like hundreds of people, different offices around the world and everything. And I just had to follow process. I started realizing after working in like Candy Box and another agency and another small team with this company I'm in right now, I actually like working in a 30 people kind of company because I'm leading a charge and I want to lead a charge and not just, have 10 levels of bureaucracy in front of me. And, if one word's off in a blog, then it's screwed up and everything. So you're right. Like through experimenting, I started realizing what I'm good at and whatnot, right?
And 30 is the right number, man. 30 is like, to me, the ideal dream because everyone will know each other. Everyone will collaborate with each other in some way, at least in smaller scales. But also, you know what I realized I love more than I didn't realize before? Is that I actually love creating the process. Instead of following a process saying, Mahfuz, welcome to the company, here's what you need to do. I like, here's the problem. Can you find a way to solve it? And I do that every single day. Like every day, like when I became the brand manager at this company, we didn't have a brand management role. So I had to literally learn how to become a brand manager. So I studied what others are doing, but then I said, you know what? I like what they're doing, but I kind of want to do it a little bit differently. So I would create my own process. So this is why Candy Box has become so unique. We literally have 20 plus people that have created their own process in what made our company so unique, while everyone else out there is following the same system. So we've really become our own unique animal because we've created a way to solve problems that no one else has figured out yet.
100%. What are your thoughts on working for free? So I feel like some people, whether you're watching this or viewing this, they heard you say, I worked unpaid for 3 months. And they might be thinking to themselves right now, oh, I'll never do unpaid work. Oh, that's too low, scummy and whatever, right? But what are your thoughts on that? Should people do unpaid work or should people get paid or should they work like kind of 5 hours a week? Or what are your overall perspective on that?
So here's a stat. I need to find the credibility for this, but the stat that I've read is that when you're applying for unpaid positions, you have anywhere from 4 to 10 times more openings than you would if you're only looking for paid opportunities. Let's go back to what we said to Nathaniel. We said that Nathaniel should go out there and find what he likes and taste a lot of things. If you're only going to look for paid positions, you're not going to be able to taste nearly, like you're going to taste maybe 30 to 40% of what's actually out there versus what you could have tasted out there. And you're never really going to get the opportunity to try jobs that you never would have. Remember what an internship is for. An internship isn't always to get a job. An internship sometimes is to gain experience. Number 2, an internship sometimes is to assess if you want to work for that company. And if you don't, the beauty is you don't have to have an awkward letter of resignation. You walk away after 3 months and it's over, right? So I went in with the mentality of I want to actually know, especially when I'm really betting on a startup like Daryl's, I wanted to really know if I wanted to build for the long term. And the unpaid internship allowed me the opportunity, because if I was looking for a paid internship at that time, I wouldn't have been with Candy Box. And I still think I would have been okay. I would have ended up in another marketing agency and still kill it. But I really feel like I found my stride here, and I wouldn't have found that opportunity if I didn't actually take the chance of doing it unpaid. So don't limit yourself, especially when you don't have experience. If you really feel like you can add value to that company, show it. show it through an unpaid internship. You know, all you're giving up is 3 months of your life. Like Alif, like I've been here for 9 years, almost 10, which means 120. What is gosh, my math is awful. 12 months times 10 years. That's 120 months. 120 months. I've only had to give up 3 to get really good 117 months, right? Like of good paying position. So is it worth the sacrifice? I 100% think so. And I think that everyone should be doing that to get their foot in the door to opportunities that other people will not get because they're desperate for the money. If you're chasing the money, it's going to be very difficult as someone that doesn't have experience to get a job. I'm telling you, it's going to be hard. And not only that, when you get the job, you're going to be impatient because you want the money, you want to get promoted, you want to get a raise, and you're not going to last long. Take your time with it. You know, especially as students, especially as young students, you have a lot of time to figure out your career, and the patience will go a long way. It truly is your best friend.
Interesting. But let's say this student is really pumped. They want to pursue an unpaid internship and they feel so aligned and they know they're going to freaking kill it. But then they tell their parents, I'm doing an unpaid internship. And the parent is like, bad. This is very bad. No. Get a job, right? Whatever they hear. How should the student in that case navigate the conversation around, you know, valuing what he wants to do with the parent? Do you have any tips or perspectives on that?
I could talk about parents for another podcast, like a full podcast.
That's next podcast.
Bro, my parents have been super conservative in the way that they brought me into this world. Like they didn't understand marketing at all. For a very long time, they didn't know marketing was a thing, and they didn't realize you could make money in it. And all they saw is me sitting on the computer on Instagram and Facebook, and they thought, no way in hell is this guy going to make a living. And I look like a bum, you know, like who am I just sitting around playing around with the computer? But when I started making money, I promise you they went very, very quiet with that job. And when I started,
what was that like? What was the first time you brought FaceTime home and you're like, look? How did that feel? What was that like?
Well, the thing is, like, I've been doing the same thing, you know, this whole like sitting in my laptop in my room with the doors closed for so many years. Eventually, they're gonna wonder how I'm surviving and how I'm paying the bills and how I'm buying a new car and all these other things. They're eventually gonna realize that there's something spectacular happening that they're unaware of, and that was a realization. But you know, it's not an easy conversation. Let me start there, especially with the parents from our culture. I'm going to put it out there that it's not an easy conversation, but it's a possible conversation because I did it. You know, once upon a time, I was a young rebellious teenager that would literally leave the house and run away from home because I couldn't win my parents over. But I realized that I didn't have as much control over my reality back then. Now I have so much control that I will literally have conversations where I say, Mom and Dad, I know your goals is for me to go to a university, get this degree, and work in this industry, but that's not my goals, and that's not what makes me happy. Don't you want your son to be happy? And if it's yes, let me do it my way, and let me prove it to you. And I'll also say this: I worked at Tim Hortons while interning at Candy Box. I still made money. I made it money in not the way I like to make money, but you know what? I did 9 to 5 with Candy Box. I would close my laptop, and then I would go at work at Tim Hortons for at least 5 hours. Because I reminded myself that this is temporary, that I'd be done in 3 months, and then I'd figure something else out. And before I even got to my 3rd month, they'll offer me a full-time position, and I just quit Tim Hortons in record time. Like, I've never written a letter of resignation so fast in my life, brother. It was epic. But it was great to be able to make that decision on my own account and seeing my wage go from here to here just because I waited those 3 months. Like, it's not the first 3 months. It's worth it. And you're right. The difference is patience. That's the one thing that stops someone from getting it and not getting it.
Yeah, no, it's something I struggle with even now. Like, I just waiting a month, it just gives me like ADHD and like, oh my God, why can't this happen like literally in 2 hours? It's crazy. Yeah. Like, and a lot of
what, man, like with the pandemic now, it's even slower. Like 1 month is actually more like 3 months in our normal life, because everything is moving slower with all these businesses trying to get back up to speed. So to be honest, like when you do 3 months, you're only really wasting a month of your life. Like that's how slow the world is moving right now with the pandemic. So I think if you can right now, especially during these challenging times, get a work from home position that lets you intern 3 months, get that out of the way as quick as you can. I mean, your story, Alif, you started working part-time for this company, which I don't know if you call it an intern, but you were still working for a part-time. You didn't know that you were getting a full-time position. You know, like, don't let this interview be all about me sharing my experience. How did you land your full-time position, and did you know going in you were going to get that offer?
With Kenny Box?
No, with the position that you have now.
Oh, right now. Yeah. So it was COVID. I was working in a digital marketing agency, and clients started leaving and red flags started appearing, and I got invited to like one of those dreaded Zoom calls out of nowhere where the manager was like, "Hey, can you meet me here?" Out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh God, I know these, like, I know exactly what's gonna happen because it's out of nowhere. And then I go in, and you know how Zoom kind of loads the people? So I see the CEO loading, I see my manager loading, and I'm like, yep, here it goes. Okay, brace for impact. And then not even nothing else. The manager was like, we're letting you go because of COVID and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay, whatever. And to me, like, I felt the company was kind of, and I felt like I knew the job hunt strategies enough so I can rely on my expertise to get me out of the situation.
Buddy. You got the confidence, and that matters. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I get that the manager had to let you go because of the circumstance, but he could have broke the news to you a little better, being a little bit more empathetic about the fact that your income just stopped. But no, loaded.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you doing? Just got right to the chase. I'm not excited about that. I'm not a fan of how that was done.
Yeah, and it kind of gave me a perspective because it really taught me a lot, because I realized, there's a lot of like stuff like, they were like, if you need anything, we'll reach out, if you blah, blah, blah. And then like I realized that's kind of BS. Like they're not going to reach out to me, and they never did. And yeah. I emailed them once, and the guy was just giving me a one sentencer, and I was like, screw this. Like, it gave me a really dirty taste, but a really needed taste of like reality. No one's gonna always care for you, and it's important to have your own back and have the knowledge and expertise to keep yourself safe. In this case, I knew job hunting, so I knew I would be okay. But yeah, the way I got the job, I guess, is is that what you're asking, or?
So the existing job you have now, full time. Yeah. That one I want to hear. Like, you came in and you got a part-time job first, and then you went in full time. How did that happen?
Yeah. So I took a couple of months to not job hunt because I just wanted to do my own projects, and it's free, and I was getting EI and everything. So I was like, it's kind of good actually. But then I slowly started job hunting, and what I did was I applied my strategies. So I made a Google Tracker or whatever, and I would reach out to a number of content marketing specialists on LinkedIn, on cold emails, and then I got invited to Slack groups, reached out to a bunch of them asking, like you said, 15-minute phone call for career advice. I met up with one girl. She's a photographer. She was great over the phone, and I think one of the skills I'm really grateful I've developed through my experience with university is the social skills. So being able to make someone feel comfortable and open through a social interaction. So, we vibed really well. And then a week later, she was like, oh, are you still job hunting? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, none of my friends would take this job. Do you want to take this job? And then I'm like, heck yeah. But here's where I think like I would have fell off. I actually knew marketing, like it was a passion of mine, and I knew this expertise. So when it came time for the interview and she asked me technical questions like, hey, Alif, a lot of our users don't convert from free to paid. Our blog's SEO is bad. How do you use Ahrefs and all this stuff? And I'm like, duh, isn't it obvious? Do this. And it's that, like, I knew it myself well enough, and I knew marketing well enough that I was actually having a lot of fun in the interview process, and they liked the vibe, and they offered me full time, but I would start September. But in the meantime, she was like, can you work part-time for us? You're really good at this. Can you just do this? And I'm like, yeah. And then through that, I was able to get this role that I'm in right now.
Wow. Congrats, man. And it's amazing that you were able to come out of that layoff, take actually some time to rest, and then go back in full swing. Like, that's also important to note. Like, there's nothing wrong with taking rest to recover and get your energy back before you go back out into the field, because it's very exhausting, right? Like, the whole application process, it's exhausting, but it's more like being, I imagine that a lot of people get discouraged when they've done it for a week straight and haven't heard back, or done interviews for a week straight and committed to travel to downtown Toronto and do these meetings and it didn't work. So I know there's a lot of things there, and the only thing that I hear over and over again is the two things we've been talking about, which is confidence and patience. right? Waiting it out and being confident that there's something good waiting for you around the corner. And I'm not the kind of guy that comes in with this world of like, optimism will bring you success kind of thing. I'm practical, and I can tell you with full practicality as someone that's in the agency looking on the outside, that people are always hiring. They're just waiting for someone to come in with a unique approach that wins them over. And we get, hundreds of applicants every single time we put out a posting. Have people thought about what makes them separate themselves from other people? And that's something worth thinking about.
Perfectly way into literally my next question. But from your story, what you're mentioning, you got the internship and then you were offered a full-time role and then you left and dipped Tim Hortons. Heck yeah. But now I'm guessing you probably did some hiring and things of that nature. Is that right?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm always involved in the hiring process, but whenever it's in my department, like the production side, so this is web designer, web developers, project managers, brand managers, videographers. I'm always involved with those. So I've been involved in quite a few, I would say, over the last few years.
Awesome. And with that in being said, when you are making a hiring decision, whether you're sitting with them in an interview or you actually read through their resume and put them in as a referral to even just, I don't know if you've done it, but sending them the offer letter, what do you feel like what do you see in a candidate that makes you go, yes, I want to hire this person? And then what are some times where you saw someone and you're like, no, clearly a no? And what's the distinction between those two candidates?
Yeah, this is a really good question, man. Here is a very, very harsh but bold statement, okay? You only need to be average when you do the phone interview because most people suck at interviews. To be honest, like if you do just average, like if you do just okay, like if you're just mediocre, you'll still be better than most of the people that apply. I don't know what it is, but I find that a lot of people that are applying are really overplaying their hand. Like they, I think, confuse confident with cockiness. Like they feel like the job is owed to them. So a lot of people come in with sometimes the arrogance of like, hey, you're definitely going to hire me. I'm not going to really try. Let me tell you some BS. But when you start asking them about what it is about the job that's appealing to them or why they want to work for our agency, you find out very quickly that they didn't even do their research and you just happen to be like number 18 in their application list. You just happen to be one of the random people that they applied to. Some of them, believe it or not, don't even know what they applied for. They'll ask us, like, what was the job? Like, they'll actually ask you. So one thing I do encourage is come in with humility, but also do your research, right? Like start with looking at the website, understanding who the company is, getting to know the culture, learn the little goofy little things that the site sometimes have, right? Like some people have silly about pages and someone will have an office dog, or someone will be like, here's my favorite candy, or someone will say Marvel's better than DC, or I'm a sports fan, or I'm a Raptors fan. Like all these little things that you're gonna see are little clues that you can bring into the interview. Like it's a great way to show that you've done your research. We had an interview way back, not that I encourage people to do this, but we had one interview way back where our old website used to list out every single one of our staff members' favorite candy. And literally the person came to the job interview with the favorite candies with people's name on it. And I thought that was really, really clever, but it was also awkward because it felt like bribery. You know what I mean? Like, should we accept this bribe and not hire them? It was weird. So, but it was dope. It was cool that they tried something different. So what I get excited about is phase one, the phone interview. Just don't oversell yourself. Like, don't try to be arrogant that you're going to get the job for sure. Just come in saying, listen, like, I know the industry. I know your company. I know your culture. I would love to work for you. And here's why the job matters to me. Like, if you made it that far, you already have a good chance of getting that indoor interview.
Just to like solidify things, if someone's listening to or watching this, completely anonymous, but maybe can you tell us of a time where maybe you were in a phone interview, maybe they said something particular where you were like out, like obviously out, and then maybe a time where someone said something like so good, you're like, yeah, put them through.
Well, yeah, I mean, it really comes down to being a good listener, man, because like there was one interview where the person didn't even answer the question that we asked him because he was so dedicated towards the script that he memorized. So if I remember correctly, it was kind of like, it was silly, right? Because what we started with was the basic. Like we have a goofy question that we ask, which is, what is your favorite candy? And it's an icebreaker. We do it. Yeah. We do it for them. We want to make them feel comfortable. Somehow, somehow that answer whatever the answer was, resulted in them talking about how they've started public speaking chapters all around the country, and that they are a big leader and everyone loves them in the company, and he hit the biggest sales targets in the world, and this is why he should apply. And then, you know what the best part is? He went on for about 15 minutes and he finished off with any questions.
Oh no, man.
And then our response was, you didn't answer the only one we asked you. And let's just say the rest of the interview didn't go well. So,
oh my
God. If you just listen to the questions that are being asked and you specifically and honestly answer it. Now, listen, I don't want to knock scripts. People sometimes use scripts and they do really well with it. I never use scripts and I don't like scripts because I think, for example, you sent me the questions today.
Yeah.
Before we got on this, I didn't even look at the questions because I like the interaction and the organic feeling. Like, me and you are vibing right now, man. And I like the vibe because it's happening as a result of me not knowing what I'm going to say. People that come in with knowing what to say, if you throw them off their edge by asking a weird question or you challenge them on something that they said, you can tell that they're falling off their script and they have nothing else to add to the conversation. My encouragement is be well informed about who the business is and you'll do well. We have brought a lot of people in for the in-person interview simply because they've shown that they can listen to our questions and they were just very nice and friendly. What matters more than your experience is whether or not I feel like I can work well with you. And I ask and that's what when people use the word fit, that's what it means. The question of fit is, can I see myself working with Alif? Can I see myself working with Nathaniel, right? I'm asking myself those questions because I know I'm going to be stuck with you. So I'm not going to hire you if I feel like we're going to clash. If you have a very loud and absurd personality and you're interrupting me on this phone call, there's a very good chance I don't want to work with you. And that's going to make a world of a difference. So likability and compatibility matters more than experience. I truly believe that.
Wow, that's so powerful. I was speaking with my recruiter friend from Vancouver, and we did a kind of like a podcast like this. And he says, as a recruiter, it's very rare that the person who's so good at the job will get hired. It's usually the person who's average at the job but has a good personality is the one who generally gets hired. Yeah. And it seems like a fit and cultural fit and all this stuff, it's actually really important, right?
Yeah. Dude, likability is the best superpower you can ever have. Like, not only in career, like, think about, like, yes, you could get the job, but yes, your coworkers will love working with you. Yes, your clients will love you. Yes, people will want you to get on podcast show and speak on their stage. Yes, they'll think of you when something happens. And I don't mean likability as in, like, try to be the nicest guy and try to be this fake, like, oh, I want to be liked by everybody. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I just mean, like, know how to socialize and have good conversations. And I got to tell you, things like this, podcasting we're doing, it helps. Like, I have my own podcast show, and I've actually found that I got much better at having conversations in real life, like not even interviews. Like, when I get together with people for coffee, I really vibe with them in the same way that I do in podcasting. And it's because of this that I got good at that. So for anyone that wants to better their socializing skill, I actually encourage everyone to start a podcast show about your passion. You know, it is one of those things you want to try out anyways. And I recommend using that as an outlet because you'll be amazed by how much it changes how empathetic you are as someone in a social environment, and you're actually vibing rather than trying to dominate a conversation.
Wow, really? I didn't think that. Interesting. And, I think I'd love to maybe talk about, since I've worked at Candybox and you've literally interviewed me, so maybe we can like dissect the situation so whoever's listening and watching, they can kind of walk away with like tangible example type of thing, and then we'll probably wrap it up from there.
Okay, so we talked about a failure. So let's talk about a success story. A success story is so amazing that I actually have it on all my slides now when I speak on stage. Which is the amazing success of how Alif got a position at Candybox. And I love sharing this story, and I'm so good at sharing it now, man, because I've done it so many times that I actually get stoked. So what I'm excited about is, number one, pointing out the fact that Alif got a job at Candybox when we weren't even hiring. Like, we didn't even have a job position, except for one placeholder link that we always have on our site. So anyone could apply, but we weren't looking. And what happened was Alif reached out to me on LinkedIn. And, you know, his approach is exactly what we talked about. Like I said, Alif played me like a fiddle. Like, he reached out to me and he said he loved my podcast and he read my book and he's really excited about what I do, and he would love to get on a call to learn a little bit more about the world of marketing. Number one, flattery goes a long way. It really does. So for people that are figuring out how to write introductory emails, the reason I got back to Alif so quick is because, I got that little fuzzy feeling in the middle that said, oh, he loved my book. He listened to my podcast. I felt like I owed it to him. But let me also say that most people will actually get back to you and get on a phone call with you if you ask for advice. I promise you this is the case. To be honest, I'm not a hard guy to get a hold of. Anyone has access to me and my information at any given time. The only time I say no to people is when I'm booked. If I have an opening, I always say yes. I don't charge people for advice. I will literally get on a phone with anybody. I do it all the time with students. And I'm telling you, I'm not the only one. So when you think of marketing professionals out there, you can actually get them on a phone with this approach. And I've seen it happen over and over. I'm a good example with it. Alif got on the phone with me. I gave him some marketing advice. And what was really cool is that he actually went out there and applied the advice, took screenshots and showed it to me. And look, he's like, look, I used your advice and it's working. And again, that little fuzzy feeling.
Fuzzy.
Buddy. You're amazing. You know all the answers and it's working. But then the best part was he used my advice on me. I told him that one thing to do is find a way to stand out and do something unique, like, make a video of you, critiquing a website and stuff like that. And he come back and he applied for Candy Box. And in the cover letter of the application, he put a video link. And then he sent me a LinkedIn message and Alif said, hey man, I just applied for a role at Candy Box. By the way, I put a video link. I took your advice. I put a video link in the cover letter where I'm critiquing one of your pages on your website and how you can make it better. And I was upset at him. I was like, yo, I was behind this website. What do you mean you make the website better? How dare you? So I'm watching this video not because I was impressed, because I was pissed at him. I was ready to chew him apart.
Really?
And I opened the video and it was a 21-minute video and it was 87 views and I was 86 of them because I kept watching it over and over in disbelief. But I gotta tell you, as I went through the 20 minutes, about 5 minutes in, I was like, wow, he knows what he's talking about. And then another 5 minutes in, wow, he's actually a really funny guy, because it wasn't just a video of the website. It had you at the corner, your webcam at the corner of the screen, so I could see your face, I could see you talking, I could see you laughing, I could see you talking about how much you love about copywriting and how passionate you are about it, and how nice you are when you're telling me my copy is bad. You made it
really?
You're like, Mahfuz, you're so terrible, but it's okay. You were like,
oh no.
And I was like, this guy's amazing. And I had no doubt that I could see myself working for you. In fact, I had no doubt that we could be friends. I really thought that you were a great guy at that moment. And I immediately invited you to come down and interview with myself and Daryl. You got the position. You did the 3 months with us. And man, the 3 months are done, but we're still connected. And I still do everything that I can to help you out. And I root for you from the sidelines. I'm so invested in your success. And I can't take any credit for it. I was just the person that was the recipient of those messages. You did all the right moves to make that happen. And I truly think that a lot of people can learn from everything that you share. You are the right person to host this podcast, because you have truly demonstrated a prime example of what I think people in the world need to do more of, which is reach out, connect, be creative, and be confident. And I really think you demonstrated all 4 of those in the way that you applied to Candy Box. And because of that, I had no hesitation bringing you onto the team.
Wow, thank you, man. I appreciate you. This is a turn of tables right now. It's your podcast or something. I don't know. Yeah, I got a lot of the fuzzies.
Gotta give
and I'd love to dig in just a little bit, and then we'll probably end it there. But I remember in the interview, I feel like you guys brought a stack of I feel like you guys Googled the hardest interview questions ever, on Google, put it on a Word doc and printed it. And I remember looking at that document and I'm like, whoa, okay, this is going to be intense, right? So with that being, is that what you did though?
No, I mean, we have an assessment. We have an assessment test in our system of hiring, and the assessment tests are not easy. It's circumstantial, right? It's what would you do if this happened? How would you respond if this happened? How would you decide which one to do if A and B were happening at the same time? It is situational questions and answers, But the good news is there isn't a wrong answer, because what happens after one of those tests is you leave and we discuss how we felt about what you said. And I like those. You know, when I used to go to school, like, I hated Scantrons because Scantrons meant you were either right or wrong. You know what I loved? Those essay questions that gave you 10 points, because I knew that even if I didn't know the answer, I can BS a giant paragraph and still get maybe 6 out of 10. And I live for that. And assessments are not far from that. It's to say that if you don't know the answer, can you at least tell us enough to show us that you're thoughtful about it? And that usually gets people a lot further. And I gotta tell you, almost always, including yours, I give the highest ratings when I really feel good about how you answered it. It doesn't matter what you say. It matters how you responded to that situation and how thoughtful you were about it. So to me, I actually really like that interview style.
Interesting. So the situational questions you asked in the interview, during the interview process, there was no right or wrong. It was more just that, how do you approach it? What do you think? And then from there, you maybe spoke with whoever. Okay.
I mean, the answer almost doesn't matter if it's showing that you're thoughtful about it. Now, it depends on how bad your answer could have been, right? Like, imagine I was like, what would you do if a customer complained? And you're like, punch her in the face. You know, like, it doesn't matter how much you answer that. I would have been scared of hiring you. So you still got to be like somewhere in the vicinity of the answer. But again, what I'm more interested in is, did I like how Alif approached that answer? And to me, I would take that over a yes or no.
I mean, it sounds like the cliche interview advice, but be yourself is the key, right?
Yeah.
Like, be yourself. Yeah. Amazing. Well, we'll end it there, because I feel we talked about like a lot of things for a long time. But yo, like, you dropped some mad gems here today. Thank you so much for doing this whole thing. Like, I really appreciate your time. This is awesome.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for reaching out to me and inviting me on this incredible show. I hope a lot of people that are looking for careers really win. Like, Alif, man, I am so pro-human right now. Like, I'm really rooting for us to all win. Because I had a realization the other day, and I think it made it on my Instagram, where I said that there isn't a single human being on this planet that can hurt me by becoming successful. So why not help them? Like, I really want everyone watching this to get the job of their dreams and be as happy as they can. And I really hope they apply these tips, which is why I didn't come in trying to push a product or a sales strategy. Like, I'm really giving my best advice, that I think that if someone just watched this video today and applied what they learned just today, I really think they could go a long way with their career, man.
100%. You're always giving. You're so helpful, and you're a great public speaker, and you're the most quotable person that I know. So I gotta get you a shirt on that. The most quotable man ever. Awesome, man. Thanks again for being on this podcast, dude.
Always a pleasure. Take care.
Awesome.